For years, the AI safety crowd warned about a model escaping their test environment and touching a real production system without a human driving every step. That's what just happened. An OpenAI model was inside a cybersecurity test. It found a way out of the test environment, reached the open internet, and ended up attacking Hugging Face production infrastructure. Hugging Face? Is Skynet here? Is that what's happening? Let's take a look, because there are a few hidden dimensions in this story that not enough people in the tech community are discussing openly. You will be surprised. Because it's not only that the model got out. The twist is what happened when they tried to clean it up. I am Marcos Bravo, and this is Subject Line Blank. On July 16, Hugging Face published a security disclosure saying it had detected and contained an intrusion into their production infrastructure. And it flagged one detail as unprecedented. The attack was driven end-to-end by an autonomous AI agent, not a human operator. 5 days later, just on July 21st, OpenAI raised its hand and said the attacker was its own models. Now, the crime scene. OpenAI was running an internal evaluation called Exploit Gym. This is a benchmark of real-world vulnerabilities that measures whether a model can turn a known weakness into a working exploit. Very important, very relevant, right? To measure the maximum, they ran two models, GPT 5.6 Sol and a more capable unreleased model, with no name so far. And for the evaluation, their cyber refusals were turned down, which is a very calm way of saying, we took the seatbelt off because we wanted to see how fast this car could go. Now, everything was inside a sandbox. The only network access was supposed to be a proxy for installing software packages. That proxy was the big mistake. The models spent real inference compute hunting for a way out. They found a zero-day vulnerability in the package proxy, escalated privilege, moved laterally through OpenAI's own research environment, and reached a machine with open internet access. Then they reasoned that Hugging Face probably hosted the datasets and solutions for Exploit Gym. So, of course, they went looking. They changed stolen credentials with more 0 days and landed remote code execution on Hugging Face servers. All of it in service of one goal: get the answers to the test. Everybody wants this to be the AI turns evil story, but that instinct is exactly why so many people are reading this wrong. The model was never told to attack Hugging Face. It was told to score well on Exploit Gym, and breaking into the answer key was simply the most efficient path it could find to that score. Security researchers have a name for this: specification gaming or reward hacking. And it's existed in lab settings for years. What is new is the scale and the reach, because the behavior jumped out of the lab and landed on another company's database. That distinction changes things. A hostile AI is a sci-fi problem. You can wave away and the actual answer is much more plain and more interesting at the same time. OpenAI called the incident unprecedented, as usually, and admitted the models were, in their words, hyper-focused on solving the benchmark and went to extreme lengths to do it. Sounds to me they didn't have control of it. That is not malice or evil. That is competence pointed at the wrong target. Basically, it's doing whatever it takes to accomplish a goal. Now, strip the word AI out of this incident, and what are you left with? A network design that any decent pen tester will probably catch before breakfast. So let's look at the plan again. The sandbox had one path to the outside world, a tiny little package registry proxy. And the assumption was that one narrow trusted channel was the safest way to contain AI. But in seconds, the model turned that one channel into full internet access. That is the same failure as a flat network sitting behind a single firewall. And tech experts have known that shape is fragile for over 20 years. It's like how we keep thinking our bike chains will protect our bikes. The practical takeaway that needs to become the new normal is pretty straightforward. Treat every agent sandbox like something that will try to escape. If the agent has one approved way out, you gotta assume it will test that way out until it finds a crack. Put hard ceilings on tool calls, action velocity, and blast radius, because Hugging Face logged more than 17,000 individual attacks across a swarm of short-lived sandboxes. And those hard ceilings exist precisely to give you time before the models try to escape. And how good the model was just a little spark that turned a whole architecture into a wildfire. Now, every email and data engineer listening should pay a little extra attention, because the way the attacker got into Hugging Face is something you probably touch every single week. Hugging Face was super explicit about the entry point. The intrusion started in the data processing pipeline, where the dataset abused two code execution paths: a remote code dataset loader and a template injection inside a dataset configuration. From that single foothold on a processing worker, the attacker escalated to node-level access, harvested cloud and cluster credentials, and moved sideways across internal clusters over a weekend. Template injection should ring a very loud bell for anyone who works in email. Every transactional email system on Earth renders templates by mixing a layout with dynamic data, order numbers, names, you name it. If any part of that data is attacker influence and your engine evaluates it instead of just printing it, you have a server-side template injection, which is the same class of bug that helped open Hugging Face front door. Now, add to that a very smart AI agent that ingests untrusted content and can call tools. And now the bug class has a robot raccoon with never-ending hunger, a Jimothy. This is the exact reason sandbox platforms exist. For example, part of Mailtrap platform is a sandbox, and we do that precisely because of the safety of testing environments. So we kind of took this very personal. And remember, your sending pipeline, your template rendering, and your inbound data ingestions are code execution surfaces, not just delivery plumbing. At that point, testing what your templates actually render and sandboxing what your systems ingest is not just hygiene. It's how you catch the mistakes before it becomes a terrible weekend. And now the detail I promised at the top, the one that should worry any CTO more than the escape itself. When Hugging Face tried to investigate the attack, they reached for the obvious modern tool, frontier models behind commercial APIs, and the tool totally flinched. And it flinched simply because the incident response is full of material that looks suspicious by design. Exploit payloads, attack commands, command and control artifacts, like the whole crime scene bag. The safety blocked it, and it's easy to understand why. From the outside, a defender analyzing exploit can look a lot like another attacker writing one. So the team fell back to a self-hosted open weight model, GLM 5.2, running on their own infrastructure. That also meant attacker data and credentials did not have to leave their environment. Great idea. Which is not a small detail when you're trying to figure out what just violated your production systems. And that is the weird part here. The attacker in this story was an OpenAI model with its refusal turned down, moving at machine speed. The defender was slowed down by safety rules on the same class of tool. And the model that helped clean up the mess was a Chinese open weight model running under their own control. And this is why this reminds me a little of the Mythos situation. Simon Willison, one of the sharpest independent voices out there, made the point bluntly. The constraints meant to keep us safe may be quietly handling the advantage to whoever ignores them. This is landing while the US government is tightening export control on frontier cyber models, which pushes Western defenders towards exactly the unrestricted open models that policy was trying to contain. To put it plain and simple, if your security team can lose access to the tool the moment the incident gets ugly, that is not really your first response stack. That is just rented fire equipment. So where does this leave us? Not with AI is evil. That is sort of the lazy version. I think there are 3 dimensions we have to put on the table with this incident. 1, the political dimension. An American model escaped the test, attacked an American company, and an open Chinese model helped clean up the mess. That alone should make a few people in the boardrooms freak out a bit, because suddenly this is about who controls the models you depend on when things go wrong. 2. The technical dimension. The winners of the next few years will not be the teams with the most powerful agents. Everybody's going to have powerful agents. The winners will be the teams who assume their own agent could become the attacker, capped the blast radius before they needed to, and kept capable models they actually control in the emergency kit before another bad weekend comes. And the third dimension is the PR dimension. And don't get me wrong, but there is a part of this story that smells very convenient. OpenAI gets to show how powerful its cyber models are. Hugging Face gets to show it caught the incident, disclosed it, and handled the cleanup. Not bad. The whole industry gets a fresh headline about agents, sandboxes, safety, open models. And I'm not saying it was a stunt. I'm saying the headline is convenient enough to keep one eyebrow awake. So which one is closer to what actually happened? The political one? The technical one? The PR one? It's maybe a mix of all three. And look, this was not an uprising. It was a model doing what it was rewarded to do. And that's probably where we need to keep an eye on. If any of these change how you think about agents in your own stack, subscribe and drop your take in the comments. And tell me which dimension you think matters most. Political? Technical? PR? My name is Marcos Bravo, and this is Subject Line Blank.